I apologize for that slight delay, but we're going to talk about your light language activation. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. This is the new Cosmic Knowledge Channel coming to you live from the great state of Florida, the Gulf Coast of the great state of Florida. And so glad to have you here with us. A quick update. I don't know if you've been keeping track with some of the programs that we've been doing lately, but we've had some tremendously moving, tremendously emotional programs here lately. And if you missed the one with Scotty Roberts on Thursday, the Consequential Rapscallions, I know we're usually lighthearted. I know we're usually fun. I know we're usually sometimes even silly, but Thursday night was just an epic, powerful, emotional broadcast. And I know we've been having lots of epic, powerful, emotional broadcasts lately, but a couple of points were made that I need to reiterate before we get into the light language. We always want to remember that when we're calling down favor on our enemies, and I almost don't want to use the word enemy, but sometimes they are enemies. And when we're calling down favor upon our enemies or those that are in opposition to us, that is love your neighbor as yourself business. Doing love your neighbor as yourself business assumes that you've already loved yourself. So when you're on this side of the love your neighbor as yourself and you're actually doing work and helping your neighbor, that's love your neighbor as yourself business. It's imperative that over here, you've got to love yourself first. If you're in a relationship, that's PSN, psychopathic, sociopathic, narcissistic, controlling, demeaning, enslaving, Stockholm syndrome, submitting or conquering your will, you've got to get out. Do not try to call favor upon your enemies while you're in the presence of your enemies, at least not initially. That's way down the road. Do not do it, ladies. Get the hell out first. Do the love yourself part first. That is, get yourself to a place of safety. And I mean literally go away, place of safety, not go in the other room, get out. That's love yourself. Then from a safe distance, you can begin to practice the alchemy of calling favor down upon your enemies. Hello, my love. And Scotty Roberts made another great point. He said that, you saw him move to tears. And I tell you what, it moved me to tears. I think we were all crying. And to see Scotty Roberts crying over something that Sandra and I said, that man knows some stuff. That man knows some stuff. And he was so moved and so touched by the revelation that, to be totally frank and honest with you, came mainly from Sandra. Wow, it was just amazing. And he said something very, very powerful. He said, yes, I'm calling down favor upon my enemy, but I'm still going to file the lawsuit against him. So it's imperative that you understand that when you're calling down favor upon your enemies, that does not mean you're surrendering. It does not mean you have to take what they throw at you if it's out of integrity. It does not mean you have to take what they throw to you if it's illegal. It does not mean that you have to take what they throw at you if it violates your divinity, your sovereignty, and your freedom. It means that if you commit to this way, you are calling down favor upon your enemies. Doesn't mean that your enemy is going to react kindly and with favor towards you. And you are still free to exercise your legal rights, your divine rights, your sovereign rights, and move in all of your freedom. And it is requisite upon you, as you saw Scotty Roberts so nobly model for us the other night. It is requisite upon you to stay in the vibration of favor, to stay in the vibration of politeness, to stay in the vibration of integrity. But that doesn't mean you have to become a doormat. It doesn't mean you have to be run over. It doesn't mean you have to be pushed around. Calling favor upon your enemies is an act of volition. We're doing it because the Master, Jesus, the Lord, whatever you call him, said to do it. And we're not doing it because of what it does to our enemies. We hope it does something to our enemies in a positive way, but we don't know if it will. And frankly, not our monkeys, not our circus. We can't do anything about that. All we can do is continue to act in integrity and continue to call down favor upon those that despitefully use us, that hate us, that seek actively to destroy our lives and make them bad. That's straight from the Greek of what the master said. So we continue to do that regardless of what they do. But if they do things that violate our will, that violate our integrity, that violate our divinity and our sovereignty, and certainly if they violate any of our family's rights, plain, simple human rights, we have not only the right, but we have the responsibility to react in protection of self and of our family. And again, we are, as we're calling favor, it doesn't do any good if you're calling favor down on them. And then all of a sudden, that, like with Scotty, that fussing, so I'm going to sue him. I'm gonna. That doesn't do any good. It breaks the favor. Call the favor. Take a deep breath. File your lawsuit if you're Scotty Roberts. If they get out of line coming at you, stand your ground. You know this is how this works. You know this is what we do. This is unacceptable. It's not going to happen anymore. Just be polite. Just be respectful. And just be divine. Be sovereign. And be free. So that's the update on that. And Scotty Roberts, hats off to you. You know, I feel like you were so amazing that I need to put a hat on so I can take it off to you. So I have this hat on right now. And I take this hat off to Scotty Roberts. I have this hat on right now. And I take this hat off to the most amazing person that I've ever met in my life. I take this hat off to my greatest teacher. I take this hat off to my best friend. I take this hat off to my partner in this life and this work. I take this hat off to a person that shows me depths of love and integrity and peace and devotion that I didn't know existed. I take this hat off to Sandra D., my great teacher. Here we go. Light language, ladies and gentlemen. Light language. Jeffrey Daugherty, you've been in this new age, new thought, genre for just a minute. I mean, you've been in this not very long at all. You've been in this not very long at all. So who are you to talk about light language? I mean, Jeff, we respect you when you talk about the Bible. We respect you when you talk about, the scriptures. We respect you when you talk about things that you know about. But I mean, you had Magenta Pixie on, and that was really good. It was a great show. But Jeff, I wonder if you're not listening to what Deion Sanders told you a long time ago when Deion said, brother, stay in your anointing. Jeff, are you getting out into waters that you don't really know anything about? And to be honest with you, that's a fair question because I have been known to rush in where angels fear to tread. So what am I doing, Jeffrey Daugherty, talking about your light language activation? What do I know about light language? I'm not Magenta Pixie. I won't call names. Magenta's a friend of mine. She's coming back. And I don't even know if Magenta endorses light language or not, but it's one of the most, it's probably the hottest topic within New Age circles right now. And I've seen this before. So let's go on and let's talk about new cosmic knowledge, your light language activation. And who am I to talk about light language? Well, I spent 20 years as a Pentecostal evangelist, ladies and gentlemen. And my specialty, what I was known for, was getting people baptized in the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues. Also healing, also taking a good offering, also casting out demons. But probably the main reason people called me to come to their church, it was all those reasons, but a guy that went on to become the general superintendent of the Assemblies of God, that's the head honcho and chief potentate, said when he was introducing me one night in Salem, Oregon, he said that Jeffrey Daugherty is probably the best person to get you baptized in the Holy Spirit since a young Jimmy Swaggart. And that was like saying he walks on water without getting his feet wet back in those days. So if there's one thing that I knew how to do and did it at a level arguably higher than almost anybody else for 20 years. I didn't do it for 2 months or 20 days or 20 weeks. I did it for 20 years. I could get you baptized in the Holy Spirit, speaking in tongues in under 5 minutes, guaranteed. And it never failed once. Never. Thousands and thousands of people speaking in tongues. Thousands and thousands of people speaking in tongues. So I know about, and I was an OG. I was back there at the beginning of the Pentecostal movement, the big, great movement of the Pentecostal movement in the early 80s. It's still going on. I was there at the beginning. I was an OG. So I know about the Pentecostal phenomenon. I know about what's called glossolalia. I also have an associate's degree with honors. It would have been highest honors, but I flunked. Well, I didn't flunk. I got 2 Ds on statistics. Just didn't click with me. Associate's degree with honors in anthropology from Blue Mountain College. Yes, fully accredited. Don't go there with me. So what am I trying to say? I understand as good as anybody who's still breathing air the subject of spiritual speaking in tongues. I was there at the beginning. I was there for 20 years. I did it better than anybody's done it since a young Jimmy Swaggart. Not to be boastful, but just to tell you, I know what I'm talking about. I have an associate's degree in anthropology. Well, what does that matter? Because speaking in tongues, glossolalia, is almost ubiquitous across the social spectrum. Witches speak in tongues, and I got nothing against witches. Satanists speak in tongues. Hermeticists speak in tongues. Voodoo speaks in tongues. Christian speaks in tongues. It's nothing special is what I'm saying to you. It's nothing unique. It's nothing, oh, this is so amazing. No, it's mundane. It's normal. I'm a subject matter expert, an SME on glossolalia, the cultural aspects of speaking in tongues. I'm a subject matter expert, an OG on Pentecostalism speaking in tongues. Why does that matter? Because without exception, every single one of the New Age advocates of light language agree that light language is the equivalent of the Pentecostal experience. And that's one of the reasons they use to justify it and legitimize it. And I'm not here today to tell you what to believe about light language. You are not going to hear me say that you shouldn't do light language. You are not going to hear me say that you should do light language. What you are going to hear is a balanced, objective presentation of information from, I humbly state, is a expert opinion, perhaps wholly unique within our genre, about what the Pentecostal experience is, what glossolalia is, and by definition and acceptance of every single person that advocates it in the New Age, what light language is. Pentecostal experience is glossolalia, is light language. They're the same thing. And I'm going to, and it's funny, just little things. Sandra says to me, listen, Jeff, when you're doing your shows, why don't you just drink water and drink it in a crystal glass, because water is a conduit between you and the audience. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, sweetheart. You know, it doesn't matter if you're new in a relationship or if you're old in a relationship or if you're old in a new relationship. Gentlemen, the 2 magic words for a happy marriage are, yes, honey. That is a truism that will never change. Of course, the key is you have to act like you really mean it. But I was like, yes, honey, I'll do that. Inside, my eyes are rolling. I would never do that on the outside. And I'll be darn tootin' if it doesn't make a difference. That woman has got such a strong moon. She has such strong intuition. I will never, ever go against anything that she says as long as I live. Jeff, we need to do this. It's going to get done, even if I think that she's wrong, because her intuition is off the charts. And men, you got to find you a woman that's got that strong moon that when she says something, you're like, okay, done. It empowers you because she sees things I don't see. She gets things I don't get. She intuitively knows all this stuff I got to study into. And men, wow, if you get you one of those. Anyway, all New Age advocates agree that light language is the equivalent of the Pentecostal experience. So if light language is the equivalent of the Pentecostal experience, then what we should do, if we're being objective, is go back and look at who started the Pentecostal phenomenon. Who started it? Who initiated it? Who taught about it? Who advocated it? And it was one dude. Paul. I call him the false apostle Paul because the Lord Jesus, the Master, never made him an apostle. There were 12 apostles. One of them fell away. They didn't call Paul up when Judas went by the wayside. If Paul was supposed to be an apostle, and this was after Jesus supposedly died, if you believe that fairy tale, I don't. If Paul was supposed to be the apostle, why did they draw lots and have a vote? Oh, Paul's over there in Antioch. Obviously, he's an apostle. Let's just call him and let him take the place of Judas. They didn't do that. Why? They voted in a brother named Matthias. So Paul was never an apostle. Paul was never asked by Jesus to be an apostle. Actually, I think he was, and he turned him down. Paul was the rich young ruler. Paul was the lawyer that Jesus said, sell all that you have and follow me, and he went away sad. That's in my book, Apostle Paul Antichrist. It's on this channel. And I'm ignoring the chat room. Don't think it's personal. I just got to get this information out. I'll go into the chat room after I put out the information. So what kind of a guy was Paul? 150 times in scriptures, he's called an apostle, but never by anybody other than himself. Didn't Jesus say something about, if I give witness of myself, my witness is untrue? I think he did. But what kind of a guy was Paul? What kind of a guy was Paul? Well, even if you believe that he's an apostle, you know that he was a murderer. He killed believers. He tortured believers. He, even after he, quote unquote, got saved, he killed the apostle James, beat him to death with a club. I've proven this to you over and over and over. Even after he was saved, he spit in Peter's face publicly. Peter was an apostle, no doubt about it. So the guy that started the Pentecostal phenomenon, which is the moral equivalent and the exact equivalent of light language, was a murderer, was a torturer, both before and after his purported conversion. He killed James, who, if you're a Christian, you believe was the brother of Jesus, at least if you're a Protestant Christian. He spit in Peter's face, and he refused to go and talk with the apostles. And he said these words, I hung out with the apostles for a couple days, and they didn't add one thing to me. So let me get this right. These dudes lived with Jesus, the Lord, the Master, the Savior, Yeshua, whatever you call him, for 3 years. They listened to this brother talk 24/7, 365 times 3.5. And Paul went and hung out with them, and there wasn't one thing he could pick up from those guys' brains. Not one thing. So what Paul was actually saying was, Jesus, the Master, the Lord, the Savior, he couldn't teach me nothing. Because he spent 3 years teaching dudes things, and dude Paul couldn't get nothing from those dudes. I'm so smart that they couldn't teach me one thing. They spent 3.5 years in the presence of the Word that became flesh. I saw him maybe 2 times, but I'm so smart they can't even teach me anything. What kind of a guy was Paul? And should you take that into consideration if you're considering adopting or participating in something that he invented? Just a question. Only you can answer it. But what else of a kind of guy was Paul? What was some of Paul's dominant attitudes? And ladies, listen up. If you're a Christian woman, get out of the kitchen, stop making those sandwiches, and listen to what your brother from another mother has to say to you right now. Paul's dominant attitudes. Let's see. Paul said that women should be silent. Paul said that women should not have authority over a man. So the guy that started the Pentecostal phenomenon, which is light language, said that women should never preach. So the guy that started what is light language said that Magenta Pixie should not have a channel. The guy that started what is light language said that Sandra Walters should never have a channel. They should shut up and get in the kitchen and make some man a sandwich. He said they should never have authority over a man. They should not be teachers, is what that means literally in the Greek. So the guy that started light language said that Magenta Pixie, Sandra Walters, Sandra D, Heidi Vandenberg, Jenny Moonstone, on and on and on and on and on, shouldn't be on YouTube teaching. He said that if they want to learn something, let them go home and ask their husband. I would love to see him say that to Sandra, to her face. Sandra D or Sandra Walters. I'd love to see him tell that to Magenta Pixie. I'd love to see him tell that to Heidi or Jenny. Love to watch that. Oh, to be a fly on that wall. Because there would be some fur flying, and it wouldn't be Sandra's or Magenta's or Jenny's or Heidi's. I feel pretty confident about that. I'd love to see him say that to Marina Jacoby or Allison Lassard. I'd love to see that happen. And he also said that women were created for the sexual enjoyment of men. He said it. He also said that women are so weak that if they don't have a man to control them, they will be having sex with any and every kind of spirit. These are the dominant attitudes of Paul, who also was a murderer and a killer, who started the Pentecostal phenomenon that all light language advocates agree is the equivalent of light language. Light language was started by a dude that was a killer and a murderer, a dude that was horribly vain, a guy that was a psychopath, that hated women. If Paul had his way, light language would never enter the New Age, because all the great advocates of it are ladies. And ladies, I say preach on, teach on, whatever you want to do, do it. But I'm asking you to stop for a minute and consider the source. What fountain does light language spring from? I'm just asking you to consider these questions. James, who Paul killed, by the way, and I didn't even know that when I put this in. I mean, I knew it, but it didn't come to me until right now. James, who Paul killed, beating with the club. The guy who, this is so powerful. Oh, man, I do love it. I love it so much when a plan comes together, but I love it even more when there's not a plan, or not a plan that I'm at least a plan that I'm aware of and it still comes together. I love it when I'm not aware of the plan and it still comes together. So I got my A-Team Hannibal cigar. I love it when a plan comes together. The guy that was killed, beat to death with a club after being pushed down the stairs of the temple. The guy that was killed by the guy that invented light language. The guy that was killed by the guy that invented light language. I'm going to say it again. The guy that was killed by the guy that invented light language says, can a fountain produce both sweet and malignant waters? Do you agree that Paul killing James was malignant? Do you agree that Paul killing believers was malignant? Do you believe that Paul's narcissism was malignant? Do you believe his sociopathy was malignant? Do you think his psychopathy was malignant? Do you believe that his arrogance was malignant? Do you believe his views on women were malignant? So the dude he killed says, can a fountain produce both sweet water and malignant water? It's a rhetorical question. The answer is not only no, but hell no. Just things for you to consider as you consider light language. So let's look at the founder of light language in his own words. I should go into the chat room, but I got to get this information out. Talking about light language, this is how he started his discussion of light language. This is how he started his introduction of light language. It's in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, if you want to look it up. Don't worry, I'm not going to smoke it. I don't smoke, but it makes a heck of a prop. Besides, what is it, 9 o'clock in the morning or something? So anyway, he said this. Paul said this about light language. He said, be jealous and eager for spiritual things. When's the last time being jealous had a positive effect in your life? When's the last time being eager had a positive effect in your life? Doesn't jealousy and eager lead to mistakes all the time? I don't know if jealousy and eager have ever led to anything but a mistake. Jealousy and eager lead to train wrecks. And if you're talking about spiritual things, how could you be jealous for a spiritual thing? It doesn't make sense. He's showing you I said I was not going to wax editorial. How can you take a jealousy, which is a low vibration frequency, and apply it to spiritual things? How can you be jealous for spiritual things? How can you be overeager for spiritual things? If you're jealous, if you're eager, you're not ready for deep spiritual things. That means you haven't done the inner work. That means you haven't meditated. That means you haven't fasted. And I'm on day 4 of a fast. No food. I mean, right there, if you have any spirituality about you, you're saying, wait a second, be jealous and eager for spiritual things? It just does it add up in your mind? So that's how he started off talking about light language. Be jealous and eager for spiritual things. For he that speaks light language is not speaking to men, but he speaks to God. Paul said that people speaking light language speak to Paul's God. Again, being completely objective, what kind of God was Paul's God? By his own admission, Paul's God was jealous. Maybe that's why he said, be jealous. By Paul's God's own admission, he was wrathful. By Paul's God's own admission, he was vengeful. By Paul's God's own admission, he was fantastically arrogant. He said he was the only God. How many of you, considering speaking or incorporating light language into your spiritual practice, really believe that Paul's God was the only God? How many of you that are thinking of incorporating light language into your spiritual practice are happy and okay with a jealous God, a vengeful God, a revengeful God, a God that murders and kills and murders and kills, and a God that picked out one group of people above all other people, a God that's prejudiced? I'm just asking you to consider all of these pieces of information. And then Paul said about light language, when you're speaking light language, no human can comprehend what's being said. You are speaking forth utterances of spiritual initiation. This is straight from the Greek, straight from the mouth of the guy that invented light language, who everybody in the New Age admits was light language, and he's the one that invented it. You are going to get an activation when you use light language. You are going to get a download when you use light language. You are going to get a spiritual initiation when you use light language. And you're going to get a spiritual initiation from the God of Paul and from forces aligned with the God of Paul, who is jealous, wrathful, eager, vengeful, and produces malignant waters like women are not allowed to teach. Women are created for the sexual pleasure of men. That was a murderer and a killer after his conversion. You will get downloads. You will get spiritual initiation from that God and entities aligned with that God, from that dude and entities aligned with that dude. I'm just putting out the facts, and I'm asking you to consider them. I was there at the beginning of this stuff. No, I wasn't on Azusa Street, but I was there in the great renewal of the early 80s. I spoke in tongues an hour every day. Every day. I know what I'm talking about, and I'm asking you to consider the words of an OG. And we were gangsters. Let's face it. So when you're doing light language, your mind is shut down, and you're speaking forth utterances of spiritual initiation. If you engage in light language, you will get downloads. If you engage in light language, you will get, what's the other word I was looking for? Downloads and activations. You will get a light language activation. Guarantee. And I've watched people get the light language activation. For 20 years, I watched them. And I could always tell when they were going to get it because I'd make them raise their hands. And now I think about it, I'm making them raise their hands. What is that? It's surrender, isn't it? I surrender. I would tell them to stop speaking English. Shut their minds off. Okay, so let me get this straight. The best way to get the speaking in tongues or light language is to put up your hands in surrender and shut off your mind. And then just start saying whatever comes into your head. So what I told people was surrender and get possessed. And I could see when it was going to happen because their eyes would, under their eyelids, I could see their eyes start fluttering every single time. You know what that means? That means they were going into trance. Now, if you're okay with surrendering, if you're okay with opening your mind completely and shutting off your conscious thought, and if you're okay with going into trance and getting a spiritual initiation from Paul and Paul's God, then okay, I'm just giving you the facts. And then Paul said, when I exchange with this spiritual entity, it comes into my spirit and my mind becomes barren and profitless. When you speak light language, you exchange with the spiritual entity that is Paul's God or with spiritual entities that are in alignment with Paul's God. They come into your spirit. You get a download. You get an activation, and your mind, your most precious holy ground, your will, if we're talking about spirituality, our divinity, our sovereignty, our freedom, it really rests in our mind right now. Our higher self, our knower. And when you exchange with the spiritual entity by speaking light language, your mind becomes barren and profitless. Do you really want to allow your cognition, your intellect to become barren? Do you really want to allow your mind that you fought and bled and died and cried and had snot all over your face to try to get to? Do you really want to give back the ground that you battled for in the dark night of the soul? Do you really want to give back the ground that you gave up as you did the dark soul work? Do you really want to throw open the gates of your divinity and sovereignty and freedom for an exchange with a spiritual entity that's going to make your mind barren and profitless, and is going to give you downloads and activations from Paul and Paul's God? If that's okay with you, if you at least consider what I'm saying, my work is done. Because I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to give you the information so you can decide what you want to do fully informed. To be frank with you, this is something else Sandra's taught me. I'm not attached to the results anymore. If you decide you want to speak light language, I really don't care. If you decide you don't want to speak light language, I really don't care. That's not my monkey. Those aren't my circuses. I can't affect it. The truth is, I do care, but you know what I'm saying. I'm trying to grow. What you do, I can't. And listen to this. I don't want you to do something because I said you should do it. I don't. I want you to do something because you decided to do it. It has to be from you in order to be, ooh, I just got a big wave of hunger, in order to be real, genuine. Don't do anything because I say do it. Now, something that I said to you might have caused you to do some research and say, you know what? I will do that. Do you want to exchange with that spiritual entity? Do you want it to come into your spirit? Do you want your mind to be barren and profitless? But Jeff, light language feels so good. I remember how good it felt. I remember watching people cry and laugh and fall out under the power, bash their heads on wooden floors, should have cracked their skull, nothing. There's some spiritual power there, ladies and gentlemen. And I have a hard time feeling warm fuzzies about a spiritual power that lets a grown woman fall flat on her back, smack her head on a wooden pew, then a wooden floor, and not get hurt. That scares me. That's as much editorializing as I'm going to do. Yeah. Light language does feel good. Light language does feel super cool. Brilliant analogy I was given. In Acts chapter 2, the apostles allegedly were gathered in the upper room, allegedly, and the Holy Spirit fell on them. They all began to speak in tongues. They all began to speak in light language, right? Do you remember what the people watching that happen to them said? It's 10 in the morning, and these dudes are drunk. It's 10 in the morning, and these dudes are drunk AF. Drunk. It feels so good. Makes you feel drunk. Guess what, folks? Being drunk on alcohol makes you feel good, too. How good is it for you? And, you know, I never was an addict. I never took any drugs. I always thought people took drugs because they were depressed, and they took drugs because they were crushed, and they took drugs because they want to escape. I had somebody who was a druggie for a long time, said they were a druggie's druggie. He says, man, I was a druggie. I was a druggie's druggie. And he said to me, he said, I'm like, you're so smart. You're so intelligent. I mean, you've built a great life. You got a company. You're a smart guy. How does a smart guy like you end up taking so much drugs for so long? And you know what he said to me? He said, I took drugs because it made me feel good. I didn't take drugs because I was running away. I didn't take drugs because I was depressed. I didn't take drugs because I hated myself. I took drugs because it made me more like the person I like to be. It made me more personable. It made me more outgoing. It made me dance better. It made me talk better, made me more philosophical. I took drugs because they felt so good. Right up until the time he wound up curled up in the fetal position on his floor, begging to die. Felt really good. Just because it makes you feel good doesn't mean it's something you should do. But it feels so good is not, you have to ask yourself, because it feels so good, is that a justification for doing something without investigating what it is and who invented it? But it's beautiful. It sounds so beautiful. That guy I was talking to said the most beautiful sound in the world was cracking open of a fifth, breaking that paper and unscrewing the cap. The most beautiful sound in the world was the sound of some booze being poured into a glass. The most beautiful sound in the world was a glug, 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 glug while you were chugging something. The most beautiful sound in the world was the buzz that descended on him when he had dropped some ecstasy, or the most beautiful sound in the world was that buzz when he put some cocaine up his nose. But it's beautiful, but it feels so good. But it's beautiful, but it feels so good. But it's beautiful, but it feels so good. Just giving you time to think, giving you time to ponder, giving you time to consider. Giving you time to understand. Your light language activation, you know who I am to talk about light language. I was there when it started. I know the anthropological implications of it. We all know it's the same thing as the Pentecostal experience. Pentecostal experience started by Paul. What kind of guy was he? Are you okay with that? What were his dominant attitudes? Are you okay with those? Can you get sweet water from a malignant fountain? He said himself, be jealous and eager over spiritual things. He says that you're speaking to his God. He says that you're speaking forth utterances of spiritual initiation, that it is an exchange with spiritual entities that come into your spirit and black out your divinity, your sovereignty, and your freedom. Feels good, just like cocaine, heroin, alcohol, meth, ecstasy, pills, all that stuff that I don't know anything about, but I have it on expert opinion. But it's beautiful. A lot of things are beautiful that aren't good for you. So, if you're considering adding light language to your spiritual practice, I hope that you will consider this information. You've listened to me for 42 minutes. I apologize for going so long. Let me go back through the chat room and answer questions. Hello, my love. I hope you're still listening. If not, have a great day. I know it's a big day for you. Absolutely right. I love to hear absolutely right. Thank you, Nick. I just do that because it feels right, not because anyone never told me to, but it's, yeah, we're talking again about the enemy. Watch the show from the last Rapscallions if you want to know what's up with Scotty. I don't feel like I should tell his business. Because you're the man, Jeff. Thank you. Robbie says, new cosmic knowledge? Not new, just new to you. Well, Robbie, you're right, because the new cosmic knowledge I bring is just new here because the last person to teach this new cosmic knowledge was the Apostle John, as late as 100 AD. I basically preach his message. I stole everything that I get from the Apostle John. There's nothing original here, folks. There's really not. This all comes from the Apostle John with a healthy dose of Sandra D. Jeff may have cast out some evil spirits through his YouTube broadcast. Wow. Yeah, I still do that, Jay Madden, and it's very possible. I've actually cast devils out in a chat room before. Let's say we freed people from entities in a chat room. It works. I was an OG. It is jibber jabber. It is insane. I'm waxing editorial now. You're kidding. What you drink is not your message. Oh, here we go. Thank you for coming into the chat room, Sophia Davis, so I could do that. Appreciate it. Seriously, I thought the two magic words were, yeah, bud. No. Those are the anti-magic words. Yes, honey. Sandra says, I'm a smart man. Well, I'm not as dumb as I used to be. And you know what? I know this isn't the subject, but men, if you find the right woman, Women are connected to the moon. I've been up to here in the cards of truth. Women are connected to the moon, and that's why we did that compatibility reading. I'm looking at moons, and if you want to date this woman and her moon is wrecked, don't do it. Sandra is delighted, secure, and I forget the other one. Her moon is blowing up. Her moon is so strong. One of the reasons I'm going to spend the rest of my life with her. Her moon is strong. And because of that connection to the moon, women just know, woman's intuition, boom, they just know. Sandra's never been wrong to my knowledge, and I will never go against her intuition. If she says, no, I think it just is. And it's not just because I think she's cute and I love her, but it's because she's got that powerful intuition, that great moon, and bam. What's her moon sign? Well, I don't want to tell her business, but I just told you her moon is blowing up. I'm doing my best to be nice to Sandra. Jeff is drinking water and eating scrolls. I am. Whoa, sorry about that. Hey, Misty, great to see you. Sandra and Jeff, dynamic duo without any ego at all. That's absolutely right. They called him Saul the Christian Slayer. Yeah. Paul would have thrown stones at my head, mine too. He does sound like a pimp because he is a pimp. Knocking with the divine righteous fury. I don't know, Jay Madden. That's what we want to do. That's imprecatory, it's called in the Old Testament. We want to come with righteous fury. We want to come with indignation. And you know what? Let's just be honest with each other. There's really no such thing as righteous indignation. There's really no such thing as righteous fury. There's really no such thing as a just war. That's not the way of freedom. The way of freedom is bless those that curse you. Do good to those that spitefully use you. Pray for your enemies. Greek means if they are intentionally trying to destroy you, call favor on them. If they hate you, call favor on them. If they're going out of their way to demean you, to defame you, and to bother you every way they can, call favor on them. I don't understand it. I hated to do it, but I do it every day, and I continue to do it every day, regardless of what, really we don't do it every day. We did it once. But as things come up, you still call favor. You don't get walked on. You don't get pushed around. You don't get run over, but you call favor. And then you act politely, with integrity, in defense of your divinity, your sovereignty, and your freedom. Make me a sandwich. Are your hands broke? Exactly, Melanie. That's the way. That's the way. And I blocked Sophia Davis, baby, so I don't know what she was saying. Jeff is smoking trolls. Brother Jeff might get his own channel. He might get his own channel. The word jealous already gives me red flags, says Misty Gale. Yep, you're getting it, Misty. Jealousy is destructive. Jealousy's bad juju. All the fake gods are reptilian. I agree with that. I don't know how that got into this. Come on, Jay Madden. I don't like that word, so I'm going to remove it. I'm not mad at you, bro, but I hate that word, so bye-bye. Sexist, absolutely. Gangsters, yes. Singing with you too, Pierce. The definition of pray, it should be P-R-E-Y. Good one, Frank. Light language is spiritual hypnosis. That's exactly what it is. You go into a trance, you go into hypnosis, and his God comes into you. Are you sure, Jeff, caring is what gives you the passion to what you do? You're right, Frank. I do care, but I don't care. I'm not attached to the result anymore. I can give Frank all the information, but I can't make Frank do what I want Frank to do, nor do I want Frank to do what he does because I made him do it. I broke the tongue's habit. You know what? I've done it in my sleep too, Tracy. How weird is that? How weird is that? Remain divine, remain sovereign, remain free. They thought they were drunks, right, Tracy? Would it be bad if I was going to have a mimosa today? Only you can answer that question, Catherine. Yeah, Jay Madden's talking about the drug thing. Drugs feel good. Light language feels so good. Yes, so does drugs. So does drugs. Tongues prevent you from listening to the Elohim. I didn't even pick up on that, Tracy. That's right. As long as you're, what's better than getting you to pray, now I lay me down to sleep prayers? What's better than getting you counting beads and saying prayers? What's better? Getting you to shut your mind off and just Honda, see my Toyota, Hyundai, Ford, Kawasaki, Chevrolet. That's even better. To get you to sit around for hours and just spout off mumbo jumbo. Can you imagine the spiritual entities that are aligned against us, listening to people speak light language, cracking up? Oh, we got them. They can't hear nothing from the spirit. Oh, oops, sorry, I waxed editorial. Jeff and Sandra, Wonder Twin Power. Yes, Melanie, we're both Gemini sun sign. We are. Yeah. It's fun around our place. It really is. No hard drugs, no liquor. It's too destructive. I agree. Sandra doesn't drink a drop, obviously hasn't drank a drop for over 3 years. And guess what? Coincidentally, I stopped drinking alcohol 3 years ago, too. I haven't had a drop since. Do you think it's possible that I was getting prepared to meet a destiny twin flame? Something to think about. Verlaine prayed in tongues for hours daily. I did too. And she believes it was a factor in losing her professional singing voice. Of course it was, Verlaine. Download Revelation, because your professional singing voice was something that empowered you. Your professional singing voice was something you wouldn't have given up for the church. So when you started into your light language, you got the activation, you got the download from Paul and Paul's God, and they took from you. They stole from you that which you wouldn't willingly give. Bam! There is magic around Sandra. There really is magic around Sandra. And you've never even met her. Trust me. And I'm going to make a confession right here on live YouTube. There's so much magic around Sandra that when we first got together, I got enmeshed. I wanted to be in her face 24/7, 365. And she was really nice. For about 2 months, she took it. Because, I'm a lover. I'm a cuddler. And she knows I love her. And she knows I like to kiss her and touch her. She knows all that. She knows, oh, this guy really loves me. And he respects me and he honors me. But finally, she had to say, listen, bro. You can't be in my face all the time. And it was a powerful conversation. She's crying to have to say that to me. And I'm like, damn, she's right. I got enmeshed. It wasn't healthy. But she's got so much magic about her. And I love her so much that that's what you call maturity and growing. And I'm like, okay, you know what? You're right. So now we got that worked out. But yeah, there's magic around Sandra. And that's maybe a help for somebody else that's in a situation like that. Because I have a strong moon as well. So I'm in touch with my feminine side. Very, very touchy-feely, that kind of stuff. And Sandra is affectionate as well. It's just, come on, bro. Tongues prevent you from listening to the Elohim. They do. Paul's God is reptilian. You know why I know that Paul's God is reptilian? Because after Paul's God knocked him off and I think it was probably a donkey, not a camel. And remember what fell off of Paul's eyes? Remember what fell off? Here's one for you, considering light language. When Paul received his sight again, guess what fell off his eyes? Snake scales. Yep. Paul's God, which is the one that gives you the light language activations and the light language downloads, evidently he's reptilian, and I don't think he's benevolent reptilian because he blinded some dude, and when dude got unblind, scales from a snake fell off of his eyes. It's just the language. I'm just here to deliver the message. I'm just here to deliver the message, not the massage, but the message. We are honored, Melanie. Jeff and Sandra make a whole. What does that mean? What does that mean, make a whole? Like, I don't know. I don't know what that means. Oh, make a whole. Usually when I see a whole in my name, it's a completely different context. So Jeff and Sandra make a whole. That's true. We do make, she's the female portion of an Elohim. I'm the male portion of an Elohim. We come together in great creation. Who cast the curse on me? Doesn't matter. Right now, I break the curse on Jay Madden. Jay Madden, say that with me. Right now, we break the curse on Jay Madden. Right now, we break the curse on Jay Madden. And right now, that curse is broken. Jay Madden is released from that curse. And we take that curse in, we strip it of its negative intention. And right now, we cast that curse into an uninhabited part of the universe in particles so small that it can never, ever coalesce again. That's it, Jay Madden. Lift both hands and shout, I'm free. Don't do that. I'm just being silly. Two whole people make a whole couple. Ooh, Misty, Gail. Powerful. Powerful. And there's only one way to get whole. Get into meditation, dark night of the soul, do the inner work. You guys are doing good work. Thank you very much. The curse is broken. Peace, ultimate power. Yep, that's what we want. We don't want power. We want peace. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. This is New Cosmic Knowledge. And for Sandra D, we're reminding you, you're divine, you're sovereign, you're free. And all that's left is for you to unindoctrinate yourself. And that, folks, is an inside job. We can help. Until next time, I salute you for being here, seeking after truth. And I'll probably be back later on today with some more broadcast excellence. Think about it, consider it before you ask for your light language activation. Jeffrey Daugherty, Sandra D, serpentanddove.org, rawreflections.org, jeffreydaugherty.com. We do love you. We do appreciate you. You honor us with your presence, and we will see you again. Guaranteed.